Before I start this, I just want to say that this won't be a meme video like the rest of my videos have been. This is going to be a more serious video about my past, what I've experienced, and just generally how my life has been being a Yogs fan for over 10 years. So, the reason I'm making this video is there's three main reasons I'm making this video. The first one is for myself. Um, Growing up, I always kind of hid emotions and never told them to anyone, so it's kind of meant to be therapeutic in a sense that I'm literally telling anyone who views this video about it. The second reason is to kind of humanize the channel so that you don't think I'm just some blank dumbass on the internet. Like, you can actually attach a face and a person to the channel. And the third one is to hopefully maybe help anyone that has gone through what I've gone through. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. I was born in a coastal town in BC called Powell River in 2002. I know I'm very young. I'm only 19. I was born there in 2002. I don't really remember a lot because I was just born, but I moved to Victoria, which is another town in BC, in 2004 with my mom and dad shortly after they broke up. And it was not a good breakup. It was such a traumatic thing that even though I was only like 2 years old, I have a memory of it. So, yeah, not great. And that was the last time I saw my dad until I was, I think, 16 or 17, because my mom just decided that she was never gonna let him close to us again. So, yeah, that happened in like 2004, 2005. And after that, my mom got like a couple like new boyfriends over the years, and they were all just complete dickheads. But we lived in a place in Victoria for a little while. We ended up moving again in like a year or something, and then another year later we moved again, and I think that was around when I started school. And I spent like kindergarten to grade 3 in the same school, and then after grade 3, we moved across the entire city, so I had to go to a different school because it was a big place. Like, across the entire city is like an hour drive, so I can't exactly go to the same school. And there I did grade 4. I made a new friend group, which, like, all the people there were really nice. I really liked that place. We lived in like a townhouse, but like all of the townhouses like had like a close community, which was really nice. Yeah, we lived there for like a year, and then we moved again. We moved to Mission, which is super far away. It's on the mainland instead of the island Victoria is on. And there I had to make an entirely new group of friends, and that's when all of my mental issues at least became apparent to me. Because once we moved there, like, it was close to the border of the US, so people there were a lot different than where I was before. They were a lot less welcoming, and they were kind of just dicks. The first day of school when I went in, everyone was very judgmental, and they thought I was really weird, just because I was acting like I did when I was in Victoria. And that caused me to get very severe anxiety around going to school, to the point where I, for like a week or two, I was pretty much skipping school. I refused to go to school because I had so much anxiety. I just could not bear to step foot in school. It was really horrible. I told my parents I didn't want to go and that I was scared, but when they asked me what I was scared about, I couldn't tell them because I didn't know why I was scared. I was just scared. And you know, as I kept skipping school in like the first 2 weeks, my parents got more and more angry and pissed off at me. They just like every day I skipped it, they just got more and more pissed. And they never tried to really help me or figure out what was wrong. They were just like, you have to go. And if you don't go, we're going to punish you. And I mean, it wasn't great. Eventually, I worked up the balls to go to school. And the first couple months of school were absolute hell for me. I had zero friends. I was so anxious I couldn't do anything in school. When recess happened, I would literally just go and sit outside of the classroom waiting for recess to end. I didn't do anything in recess just because I had no friends and I was so anxious I couldn't talk to anyone. So that was great. Um, but after the first couple months, my anxiety lessened a bit and I started to make friends. Um, but I still had really severe anxiety. It's just more I kind of learned how to deal with it in a way. Um, I learned how to. I also learned how the people functioned there, so I could get along better with them, because it was really like a big culture shock moving from Victoria to Mission. The people were completely different, and I was in that school for like 2 years, and then we moved again, and my mom moved me into an online school when I was in, or at the beginning of grade 7. And once I moved to the online school and we moved again, I completely cut contact with literally everyone I had met in that school. I pretty much had zero online friends. Or, no, zero real life friends. I had some online friends. That was pretty much the extent of my friendships with people. I talked with people online. The way I coped was I went online and I just either played games or watched YogsCast videos, which maybe that's why I'm making such shit now. But yeah, after, well, yeah, we moved again just to a different spot in Mission. Like, there was no reason I couldn't have kept my friends, but I had so much anxiety and I didn't really like any of them. So I just cut contact completely. I just ghosted all of them, which was really bad for me considering, at the age of like 13 or 14, which is how old I was, like you really need that social connection with people just to kind of grow, but I didn't have any of that. Um, my parents just didn't really care. Like, they let me have no friends. They let me just sit inside doing nothing all day. They never tried to get me help for my anxiety or anything. They never even knew I had anxiety. And I didn't know either, because never got me tested or anything. And I spent, I think, 2 years doing online school in Mission, which sucked. It really sucks at age 14 or whatever the fuck I was, having literally zero friends. And it just sucks, you know? I was socially isolated for a very, very long time because, like, I was I spent from grade, I think, 7 to 10 in homeschooling, and I never had a friend in that time. Um, yeah, 2 years after we moved to the new house in Mission, we then sold our house and moved up into way buttfuck nowhere, British Columbia, a place that's so tiny it's not even considered a town, called Stewart. It has 500 people, and the closest town to it is a 3 hour drive each way. It was, when I moved there, I I got a job in the summer, which I thought was great because I finally started to make some money, and I was still very socially isolated, and I had a couple bad relationships in that time. Not real life relationships, but I got some girlfriends online, which was pretty bad because in the time I was moving from Mission to Stewart, the girlfriend I had at the time sent me a suicidal message and disappeared for 6 months, which is really devastating when you think you love that person and you think they killed themselves because they sent that message and disappeared for 6 months. It was really, really bad. And in that time, because I was very conservative with my emotions and I never really told anyone my emotions, no one even knew that happened for over 6 months. I just sat with that. The the fact that the person I loved had killed themselves. I sat with that for 6 months without telling anyone. So that's great. That does wonders for kids' mental health. Um, so yeah, that happened, and then when I got into Stewart, I managed to get another girlfriend, who turned out to be a catfish, which was fantastic. And not only were they a catfish, they were very emotionally abusive. They told me a bunch of weird shit just to fuck with me. And, they would constantly tell me how shit I was at everything and just bad stuff. And they also stole $5,000 from me, which, when you're like, that was like 6 months of work at my job that they just took, you know? Well, I say they took it. I offered it because I was a nice human being and they said they were struggling and they took advantage of like a 15 or 16-year-old and took my money pretty much. And after all of that crap, even after the first girlfriend, because of what happened with that, I became very depressed, and the social isolation really didn't help. Um, I was very, very depressed and very anxious, and I got my job in the middle of summer. Or no, I got my job at the beginning of summer, and after the end of summer, school started up again, and I was still in the same online school, which, because I was working a job and I was depressed and I had severe anxiety. I fell behind in school for pretty obvious reasons. And, um, as I was falling more and more behind, my parents got more and more angry with me and they started to threaten things. Like they threatened they'd take the internet away from me, which was my only source of coping. They threatened to get me fired from my job. Um, they threatened to put me back in a normal school because they knew I despised normal schools, but they never really knew why. And the reason why was because severe anxiety. So like they just threatened a bunch of nasty things, and you know, in that town as well, like around the same time, um, we were getting internet from a company that was charging $150 a month for 10 megabit download internet, which is a complete scam just like by itself. But what made it worse was that it was almost never even 10 megabit. Most of the time, it was one or less than one. And that really pissed me off because I spent most of my time on the internet. I wanted to do things on the internet and I couldn't. So I sent a really angry email to the ISP, and they then sent that to my parents, and my parents told me they got really, really pissed off at me. They literally called me out, and I sat on the couch and they ranted to me for like an hour on how shit of a child I was without me saying a word. I never said a single word in the entire time they were ranting, but they just kept going and going and going and going. So that was great. In that, they told me that they were ashamed to be associated with me and like that I was turning out to be a horrible child. And they they were just nasty. And after that, I I started getting really bad chest pains because of my anxiety. Um, I thought I had a heart problem, so I asked my parents if they could book me a doctor's appointment, which they never did. Um, the closest thing I got to that was my stepdad came in and told me, "You're too young to have heart problems. You're fine." Like he was a doctor and that he could say that. Um, so I ended up having to go and book my own doctor's appointment, which was very nerve wracking considering my anxiety and I didn't know what the fuck was wrong with me. But when I was at the doctor's, they made me fill out a anxiety and depression test, which lo and behold, the like the scoring method for it didn't go high enough for me. Like it was like, oh, do you experience this time or this stuff like once a day, once a week, um, a couple times a week? Like how often? But it was multiple times a day, and the thing didn't go that high. It was like daily, but it was horrible. And yeah, they ran some tests on me and figured I it was just caused by my anxiety, which is fair. When you have that severe of anxiety, it tends to fuck with you a bit. Um, but when they were getting my test results back, I was going to go in by myself, but my parents insisted on going with me. So they did. To which they then fed a bunch of lies to my doctor about how I've been living such an unhealthy lifestyle. Like I wasn't eating properly, which I was, and I wasn't sleeping enough, which I was. Like they were just saying things that they had no clue about me because they never interacted with me. I was pretty much their pet. How they gave more attention to the pet than me. Like it they said all that crap even though they literally knew nothing. And when they were there, the doctor told them that I had severe anxiety and depression, which when I got home, I then got They then ranted at me for another hour without me saying anything about how I should have told them. And they were just like pissed off at me because I had anxiety and depression. And it was like, I don't fucking know. You never took me to a doctor. I didn't know I had this shit. Like, my whole childhood was pretty much just a severe case of neglect. My parents never did anything for me. They never got my teeth fixed. I had, as you can see, I need glasses. I didn't have glasses until I was like 17. Like, they just didn't take care of me. They never took me to the doctor literally once for anything. So, yeah, that was great. After they got pissed off at me for just having mental problems, I then kind of realized that they were abusive pieces of shit. And I contacted my dad because my sister is a couple of years older than me. And before we moved to Stewart, she turned 18, and they were just going to kick her out and just leave her to her own devices, which she had nothing planned. She would have just been screwed. That's when my dad came in and said, "Hey, I can offer you, I can give you a job. I can train you. I can give you a future in IT. You don't need to pay any bills or anything like that." And, like, he brought her out to Edmonton and helped her set up a future for herself. And he let her save a ton of money and just really helped her. So I reached out to my dad and just told him I want to go live with him. And he was okay with that. In fact, he was so okay with that. And because my sister had been living with him for a while, he already knew kind of like how much of a piece of shit my mother was. So he was like, "Okay, I'm coming to pick you up in 2 days," which it was like, okay, I'm good with that. Which, considering like he lives in Edmonton, and that's where I'm currently living, and I lived in Stewart. That's an 18-hour drive away, and it's not like he took a plane to get me. He fucking drove. He drove 18 hours with a 2-day notice to come pick me up, which, I mean, just shows how much he actually cared. The reason he wasn't in my life for so long wasn't because he didn't want to be, but more my mother would not let him, which was really fucked up because I've lived with him for a couple of years now, and he's been an actual parent instead of just whatever the fuck my mother was. But yeah, after I contacted him, he offered to pick me up, and I ended up quitting my job there and moving out. But before I moved out, my parents got even more pissed off at me, and they told me that I was a horrible child and that I was never welcome back. Just, put the icing on the cake for shitty parenting, telling your 16-year-old son that he's a piece of shit, you know? And after I moved out here, I broke off connection with the catfish because I finally got sick of their shit, and I was like, fuck you. If you're not gonna convince me, if you're not gonna give me any proof that you are who you say you are, I'm done. So I cut off connection with them. And you know after I moved here, like, I realized my parents were really abusive, and all the crap that had happened to me, so I became even more depressed and even suicidal. While out here, I did multiple things to harm myself. I Sometimes I would just get an overload of emotion and would literally just punch my head repeatedly until I stopped. There was no rhyme or rhythm to it. I just punched until I stopped punching, um, which wasn't great. And another thing I did to hurt myself, which is really fucked up. Um, I've been very tech savvy since I was literally like 10 years old. I built my first computer when I was 12 through just saving money for like over a year. And I started to get into electronic stuff when I was in Stewart, and I had a 1 watt laser. And when I moved out here, I turned it into a handheld 1 watt laser, which I then used to burn myself. And the reason why I used a 1 watt laser is to hurt myself instead of a knife is because it was excruciatingly painful and it left virtually no mark. So that's great. Um, I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. That's really bad. Um, it was not a fun time. It was not a good time. But after I moved out here, and my dad tried to get me help, but the first therapist I got was just a complete moron. They didn't know anything about mental health really, and they refused to talk about my past, saying that it would do no good to bring it up and it would just bring back emotions. But it was like I never got past it. I was already re-experiencing these emotions every day because I hadn't moved past it. But yeah, they were no help. I was with them for like over a year, and then once I turned 18, they kicked me out and refused to treat me anymore because apparently they were only a underaged. Uh, they only treated underage people, which is kind of fucked. Um, so yeah, in the whole time I was in therapy, pretty much nothing changed. I was still really depressed and I had a lot of anxiety. Um, in that time, though, my dad, because he owned an IT company, he helped or he gave me a job as a web programmer, which was nice. It gave me something that I could do that I really like. I that I liked because, like I said, I've always been really tech savvy. I built my own computer when I was 12, and I think when I was 15, I built a 3D printer, um, and like I built a laser engraver as well from a old DVD drive. Like I was pretty tech savvy, and I'd done some programming with Arduinos and stuff. So when I moved out here and he gave me the job for a website programmer, it was really kind of like it fit very well, and that went pretty well until I think I worked for them over the course of like a year, and then after that, um, my uncle, who was a co-owner in the company, decided to screw my dad over, and he pretty much just took the company. He did a ton of illegal things. He wrongfully dismissed every single employee there was, and he he just broke an insane amount of laws. He removed my dad as a director unlawfully, and just a ton of shit. So after that, I kind of lost my job and I became very lost. But that was also around the time when I started to see a good therapist, which was really nice, um, because they were actually helpful. Um, but I was still very depressed for quite a while after that happened. It wasn't until several months later that I finally got a hold of my mental state and stopped feeling like shit. And the way I did that was through a lot of research and looking at myself. Because like the way I got over a lot of my mental problems is I literally just watched like every single video online there is about mental health, and I educated myself. I figured out why I was sad. Uh, I figured out that like one of the things that really resonated with me when I was doing all of my research is especially because I spent a lot of my time alone. It was, if you are alone and you are miserable, then you must be in bad company. Which means the only one making you sad and treating you like shit to make you sad is you. The only one responsible for your sadness is you. You may have gone through a bunch of horrible shit, but that's not what's making you sad. The thing making you sad is you, you know? So, once I learned that, and like, I just literally spent like weeks and weeks watching mental health videos and trying to understand why I felt that way. And it really helped. It, you know, it taught me a bunch of stuff. I started doing things to make me feel better. I started meditating. I started um, eating healthier. I started showering every day, which I hadn't done in a while because depression. And I started working out again, and it's just like a bunch of things to help lift my mood. And it really helped. Doing all of that stuff and doing all the research opened my eyes. And since then, my depression has pretty much gone away. Like, I recognize all the shit that's happened in my past, but I'm not going to let it control my life. And, you know, like, it's been, it was really weird. It was kind of just like people had told me all this stuff in the past, but it didn't really click with me. It like went in one ear, went out the other. But when I actually did all the research myself and found out about all of this, it just like when I was willing to help myself, I actually took all of this stuff to heart, and it really helped me. And since then I've been working out um, regularly. Uh, I've been doing more work. I've been able to motivate myself to actually do things. I've been working on projects that I've been like electronic projects that I've been working on for a while and trying to finish. Um, like generally, just my life got a lot better once I learned all that stuff. And now, um, our house is about to be sold because my uncle was also a co-owner in the house with my dad. So we're losing the house because he is refusing to sell, but also we can't afford it. And he's not going to pay it. So he's just kind of shooting himself in the foot, which has been a very common theme with him. Um, so in like a week, we are moving back to where I was born, Powell River, which I'm excited about because my grandparents are there and like I actually like them. They aren't like my mother. And that was always just like my favorite place to be. Like I don't know what it is. Just there's just something about it that is very uh, relaxing, I guess. Like it's a very calm place, and I really like it. It's like of all the places I've lived, that was my favorite. So I'm really excited to move back there. But if you need any more evidence to prove how shitty of a mother my mom was, um, because we're moving back there, it's a town of like 15,000 people, and there isn't really much housing available right now. So my grandma and grandpa live there, so I contacted my grandma and I was like, "Hey, we're planning to move back out to Powell River. Would you be able, or would you be willing to house us for like house us until we can get a place?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'd be totally willing to do that." We never really like it wasn't like we were just gonna uh, freeload there. Like I offered to pay her bills, I offered to help her renovate her house. I offered to just help with daily things because she's, pretty old now and kind of struggles with some of it. So, like, it was going to be a mutually beneficial agreement, and she was okay with it. She said she was excited to have us. And then a couple days later, my mom sent me a message saying, "You are absolutely 100% not going to stay there. You should have talked with me first, and you're not going to get any handouts from our family." And then I was like, wow, nice. What a great mom you are. So I just, like, I sent her a message that wasn't emotional at all. It was just straight facts. And I told her, like, you are screwing over your own son just out of spite of my dad. And I told her about how shitty of a mother she was and how much my father had helped us and that she should be grateful towards that. And the message was so effective, I never got a response. And she's the type of person where if she could have responded in a way that if she could have responded, she would have. But she can't think of any response to that because there is none besides, "I'm sorry," which she would never say. So, yeah, that's pretty much been my life. Um, you know, this past couple of weeks, been working on, YogsCast related content because, like, ever since I was 12, I had really wanted to be a YogsCast member. It sounds really silly, but like even back then, like I remember I created a Reddit post when I was like 12, being like, "Please, can I be a YogsCast member?" Uh, I offered to give them like all of my revenue, and I said, "You know what? You'd make it. You would you would be helping and prove that children are not dumb and immature." Which it's like it was really really dumb, but I they were like my only source of coping, and I admired them so much. I just wanted to, you know, be friends with them, you know. Um, but yeah, I started working on Yogscast videos because I was like, you know what? I've wanted to be a part of the Yogscast since I was literally 12 or younger. So I'm just gonna try and work my way up through the shitter. I am going to make a bunch of meme ass stupid videos to get their attention, and I'm going to slowly work my way up. And that's what I've been doing. That's why this channel exists, and yeah. The recent videos that I've made have been liked by a couple of Yogscast members, and I can't tell you how happy that makes me. I've admired these people for literally 10 years, and seeing them just acknowledge what I've made has been really, really nice. And like every time I see them like one of my videos or like post a comment or like Pet even retweeted one of my things, like it just brings a huge smile to my face because it's just like, wow, they saw something I made, you know? But yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to share this to hopefully, explain some stuff and humanize the channel a little bit because as memey as I am sometimes, like I am still a person and like not all of my content is going to be memey. There's going to be some more real stuff in there. I want to make this my channel, not just a meme channel. But yeah, that is about all I wanted to cover in this video. If any YogsCast members are watching and have made it this far, you are an angel for caring so much that you would watch a fucking 40-minute video about a random YogsCast fan talking about this shit. So yeah, if you're watching right now, you are an angel, and I appreciate you. That is about it though. I will see you guys in my next meme video.